You hear me and see me okay?
I can't see you. I hear you.
Oh,
I see Jordan's pillow. That's kind of like Brady Bunch right there.
I don't know what that means. I used to roller skate every Saturday. What's the word I'm looking for? Drones. Going to the store shopping, like, okay, we're here because we have to be here shopping. We were laughing because that's the only way you could do it. I've got the George Clooney look going. So not everybody's cup of tea. There were 17 people on the dance floor. Oh no! While the wife's at work.
Yeah.
And you never put stuff in the spot that it's supposed to go in.
Jordan Zwicker winning. Did I say that right? You know, I got married when I was 31. I'm looking in one of those mirrors in front of me, you know, when you're trying on a suit and it goes all the way around. And I didn't know up until that point that I was starting to thin on top. I'm like, oh, so disappointed. My dad was there with me and he was like, yeah, about that. You know? Welcome to episode 10 of DJ Center Stage TV. My name is Jim Collins. If you're enjoying the content of our show, be sure to subscribe now on YouTube and Mixcloud. Today in the show, we'll be having a conversation with two gentlemen from the Sparkle Factor. The Sparkle Factor shows you techniques to ignite parties and get guests involved right from the start. Sparkle Factor teaches you secrets of being able to interact with guests in a creative, elegant, and classy way. It's about creating the experience, an atmosphere that is transcended by your choice of words to engage the crowd, the unique energy you create, entertaining them with not just the music and lights, but drawing them into the fun. Enticing all the guests to join in so that they aren't able to stay in their seats is what it's all about. With over 30 years combined experience of entertaining at hundreds of events, founder Barry Kay Jordan Zwicker, winning formula and proven success is the key to the Sparkle Factor. Welcome, Barry and Jordan, to our show.
Thank you for having us, Jim.
Thanks so much.
The Sparkle Factor came to be very shortly after Jordan and I met. We found that we were doing very, very similar things in our individual markets. And what was really neat was we found that the experience we were giving guests seemed to be different than what we've seen any other DJs do. And I'm not saying that they aren't doing them the right way. The events just seemed had a little more sparkle. I guess that's the word. And we found that both Jordan and I had very similar techniques, although we have completely different personalities. We had very similar techniques to achieving those goals and results. And we figured that if we could bottle up the formula, we could help other DJs and entertainers achieve the same results.
Great. Now, when working events, are you both together when you typically do events, or do you do your events on your own?
Well, we will work together certain times at certain events. Either I'll fly to Winnipeg or Barry will fly to Vancouver, or we'll meet in the middle in Calgary or whatever. But it's funny because we talk on a daily basis and we talk about our events. And it always seems that we have similar events, but that plan of attack is also the same mindset that we're going to go in there, we're going to knock the socks off, we're going to give them a very exciting opportunity and enjoyment. And it's funny too, because when you hear from clients about other experiences they've had with other DJs, you know, especially in a corporate world where, you know, a typical corporate party has, you know, a formula of dinner and then the awards, and then the MC always says, okay, DJ, take it over. And then the DJ will play, you know, the most popular song as loud as they possibly can, and hope that dance floor is going to get filled. But the reality is, it doesn't work that way because there's a shyness factor, and people don't want to be the first ones on the dance floor. So in everything we do and everything we teach, it's those ways to show people you want to start off a dance party this way, and that's with getting everybody automatically to the dance floor and then kicking it off. So you've already started with a full dance floor rather than hoping that there's enough outgoing people or that they're, you know, drunk enough to get up there on their own.
Yeah. And to add to what Jordan just said too, is we know that you're not going to have 100% of the guests on the dance floor all night. But you should average, I would think, about 70 to 75% of the guests throughout the course of the evening. Mm-hmm. But what if you could start that party off with everyone for the first even 25, 30 minutes and just having a ton of fun with them. And then Some of them will go to the bar, some of them will go to the photo booth, some of them will maybe go outside for a smoke, but you've already created that energy in that moment for that fun factor.
Sure. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the formula.
One of the neat things we do, and we have so many variations of it, I'll give you the simplest. Right from the get-go, the CEO or the MC, if we're not emceeing, will say, and that concludes the formalities, and enjoy the rest of your night. And that's kind of the party killer right there, because he's basically saying, we're done now. If you want to stay, if you want to go home. So I try and guide my clients that if we're finishing the formality portion of the evening, they would never say anything about that's it for the formalities or that wraps this up. Now we're going to have, I get them to either go right into our introduction, and we do have an intro that we'll have them read, or we have a video intro or an audio intro. So right as soon as they're done, we're there to take over. So simplest example, in my personal case, I'll get introduced and I'll keep the CEO on stage with me, and I'll have him standing with me, so he's a part of it right there. We'll get everyone to stand up, push their chairs in and stand behind their chairs. Mm-hmm. And then we'll do an activity where we're going to end up with a team leader from each table. And there's a bunch of different ways of doing it, but at the end of the day, you've got everyone on their feet and they're participating. And then the next step is to get them from their tables to join with other tables and onto the dance floor. And now you've got them on the dance floor with a hot beat, clapping their hands above their heads and ready to go. And then we would go into an interactive dance. What's really neat about it is people are just motivated to get up, because if you have 90% of the guests on their feet clapping their hands, the people that maybe don't want to stand up for whatever reason, they're going to get up anyway because they don't want to not be involved in what's about to happen. And that's an explosive party.
And Mike Walter also talks about that, starting to bring in the party early. And, Big Daddy mentioned that too. And I was having a conversation with him, and I saw him actually do that at an event. I shadowed with him. So can you tell me about a situation where you tried something like that at an event and it backfired?
It actually recently happened to me this year. As a DJ in an entertainment company, there's only so many things that you can, control. And in this particular case, it was a hotel staff party at one of the higher end hotels in Vancouver. And we had the opportunity, part of the deal was that we would tie into the sound system provided by the hotel's AV company.
Okay.
And we, of course, we're not going to name any names. We know that there's one major AV company that basically owns Canada, but they started in the States, so they probably own the States too. And then it very similar to how Barry explained it, that the CEO the general manager was done his business, introduced us, we were ready to go, but because we were plugged into the sound system through the hotel, and let's just say they weren't on the ball, I'm out there doing my thing and nobody can hear it because they forgot to raise the volume of our sound system. So, and that can happen in any scenario, or even if people don't show up. But what you need to do is you need to realize that you just have to persevere. You just got to keep on going.
Yeah.
And if you get a quarter of the people, you can't fail in the sense of just giving up, because then people who are watching this and watching you, which most people are always watching what's going on, they're going to realize it's just not going to look, and it's not going to be a good representation of you, of who you are. So even though people could hardly hear it, we just still did our thing. We got it, I would say 15-20% of the people up. Okay. And we started it that way. And then once it was over, then we had the opportunity to go back to the table for the tech table and say, guys, who actually weren't there when we started, which is why we were out of luck. So it unfortunately does happen, but
sure.
You know what, you just put a big smile on your face and make it like there's nothing wrong and just go at it.
We love a challenge.
Yeah,
and
cool.
Corporately, if we're doing an event for an accounting firm or for a lawyer firm, the client will always say, hey, just letting you know, they're a bunch of accountants. They're not going to dance.
Yeah.
I always smile and I say, challenge accepted.
Nice.
Usually win with the results. I just wanted to bring back the, has it ever not worked? And one of the things that we teach we'll be talking about in our Entertaining Your Guest workshop, which is coming up in less than 2 weeks, I think. What to do if you don't get them right away, because the last thing you want to do, and I've seen this, and the last thing you want to do is be standing there like you're begging people to stand up, come on, everyone up, come on, don't you want to get, and then you're trying to grasp to get them up, and of course that's when things start getting really uncomfortable. So we teach you ways how to modify that on the fly, so you can come at it from a different angle. And you know what? If they don't want to get up, that's great. You have something else up your sleeve to at least transition out of that, so it's not awkward, and you do get them up and on the floor and having a good time. So that's cool. But yeah, we love a challenge. And the reason why we get comments like, well, they're a bunch of lawyers and not going to dance, right? Or that's because the experiences that they've had in the past have been that. And again, I intend no disrespect, but here in Manitoba, for example, or I guess it's all over the country, you'll have a handful of DJs, for example, just like Jordan said, right out of the gate, play the hottest song on the radio as loud as they can. And it's just uncomfortable. You want to ease into it. And also too, we do socials here in Manitoba, wedding socials. It's bride and groom have a party to raise money to pay for their wedding. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because they say, oh yeah, the guests are going to arrive. They're going to drink, and they'll dance the last hour of the party. And again, we want to create that fun, high energy right at the beginning. And you may not always get that, but you want to try, and you want to shoot for that, because even though guests may not be dancing, they may be sitting at their table tapping their cup, or they call it table dancing, chair dancing. They'll be tapping their toe to the beat of the music. If you see that, you've got them. They're enjoying the music and they're having a good time. They don't have to be on the dance floor to be having a good time.
And they'll also be more inclined at some point to come join the dance floor, because they're already in the party. They're just not physically on the dance floor at that point, but they will get there.
So depending on the event or the couple, if it's a wedding, how do you approach each?
A lot of it happens in the consultations with the clients. Once they booked you as a service, they know that they're getting more than just a DJ. And again, as Barry also said, no disrespect to great guys who play great music. That's awesome. That's just not our forte. We're interactive entertainment, and that's what we promote. So once the clients want to go that route, then especially in a wedding, there are so many opportunities to really wow the guests. And the first opportunity is during the dinner, when typically, I know up here in Canada, they do the kissing game. I'm sure they do it everywhere. Mm-hmm. So, not that we work in the States, but rather than, the typical clinking of the glasses, which is definitely one of the things we try to avoid as much as we can. And not because it's not fun, but we consider it old school.
Yes.
And there are new opportunities and new ways to enhance that experience. So what we'll do is, one of the big games that we do is the card game. And if people want the bride and groom to kiss, they need to come up to us as the entertainment, which also leads us to let people know that tonight's experience will be different from potentially other experiences of a guy just playing music in the corner. And then that's our first intro to everybody. We introduce ourselves and welcome them to the party for this aspect of it. And what they'll do is that first person will come up, and we have big jumbo size cards. So we'll take ace through 6 of hearts, but we'll also throw in 2 jokers into the mix. So now there's 8 cards to pull from. We'll mix up the cards, and the guest who wants the bride and groom to kiss will pick a card. And depending on what card they pick represents what will happen. So they'll either pick a number, say the 3 of hearts. Most times that will be 3 seconds of kissing. And then whoever picked the card gets to count the 3 seconds. So it sort of keeps them engaged. But most times they will pick the joker. And when they pick the joker, what happens is the joke turns to whoever picked the card. And that's when we'll showcase the different interactive styles that we can do. So they might have to, you know, we'll play a 15-second version of a song. They might have to do a dance off,
Right.
or they might have to go and kiss someone at the head table. Whatever the case will be, it will be interactive to get everybody involved and engaged. So during that typical sit-down dinner or buffet dinner, there's always excitement happening time after time after time.
And that's a great way for those guests that are kind of the wallflowers or just tapping their legs to the beat that might not necessarily get out later to dance. They're being part of that interaction for that example.
It's all about engaging the crowd from the beginning all the way to the end. So
one of the cool ways that we've also seen, and it was really neat because the next level of the contest came from taking one of Peter Mary's workshops.
Oh, okay.
And he has created or devised the Kissing Couples Contest.
Yeah.
And what a great concept to have guests have to stand up and kiss, and then the bride and groom get up and kiss.
Right.
And there's so many variations of it as well, where when we do it at a wedding, and this might be the way you do it too, Peter, so if you do, awesome. I'll have the guest who we call come up to the dance floor, and they have to kiss any way they want. They could dip, they could lay down on the floor, we had one couple actually come up to us and say, "Are we on the list?" And I said, "No, you're not." And they said, "Put us on the list." And then they had me get the theme from Dirty Dancing. I've had the time of my life, the Bill Medley. And when I called them, they actually did the Jennifer Grey when she ran and he lifted her up over his head, and they kissed while she was up in the air, and the bride and groom did it. It was so cool.
What? Okay.
Yeah, it was neat. So, you know, obviously we're not going to force people to do anything they don't want to do, but everybody was willing and in the right energy, in the right environment and atmosphere. It's amazing what people will do. It really is.
So what are some other ideas? So you have kissing instead of clanking of the glasses. So what are some other ways of getting people that are those wallflowers and more involved with what's happening at the actual event?
So we came up with a game called the Showdown. And what it is, it happens during the dancing aspect of it. So at a typical wedding, you know, after your first dance, and then generally there's a mother, son, father, daughter dance.
Yep.
One of the little key tidbits that we say is halfway during that song, invite everybody to the dance floor. And that way, again, very similar to the corporate sense of that concept, now all the couples are on the dance floor, and now you have a packed dance floor to start off your dancing. Well, rather than, again, going and playing the best song or the loudest song and having people clear the dance floor pretty quick, what we've done is we came up with a game called the Showdown. So we get the bride and groom in the middle of the dance floor, and what we do is we split all the guys go on the groom side and all the girls go on the bride's side. And then it's a full wedding dance-off with the bride and groom being the leaders and everybody following their dance moves.
Oh, that's cool.
So to help out the bride and groom, and this contest has evolved as time has gone on, but now we let the bride and groom pick one of their bridesmaids or groomsmen to join them. So now instead of one person starting the contest, it's two. So there's that comfortability. So because they picked their best friend, they're not going to be as shy to do it. And then basically after every song, it's about 4 songs long, but after the first song, we let the team know who's in the lead. So always the one team's so excited, the other team's yelling at me like, how could they be in the lead? We're better than them. And then we go into song 2, which then we call up another leader to join. So now there's 3 people leading each team into the 4 song, like on and on and on. So all of a sudden we've now created a team of leaders that everybody can follow, and the reactions are unbelievable. 9 times out of 10, the last song we do is Sweet Caroline, because everybody knows it, and it's one of those follow along, sing along songs. We get them in circles. So now it's not team versus team, it's circle versus circle. And 95% of the time, what will happen is the bride will be up in the air, lifted by all of her girls, and the groom will be lifted in the air by all of his groomsmen and guys. And it's just the pictures that come out of it that we've seen from the photographers are unreal and unbelievable. But that's what people are going to remember from the wedding. They're not going to remember, the great mixes and the great songs. They're going to remember those moments that everybody was involved and everybody had a great time. And that's the whole goal of everything we do is key moments to make it memorable. So people, when they leave the events, they're not thinking, it was a great night. They're thinking they can't wait for the next one.
Yeah. And it is all about creating special moments for them. And also, when we're with them, we talk to them about some of the special moments they want to highlight, specifically. And that's, again, getting into customizing the event, the wedding, the bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, corporate event to the client. And, Jordan and I aren't reinventing the wheel. We've taken a lot of existing traditions, existing concepts, and we just, evolved them. One of my staff, she's pretty funny. She says, we just pimp the ride. And basically what we're doing is we're taking existing things, concepts, and just taking them to the next level, coming at it from a different approach. We do this really cool, everyone still does musical chairs. And we decided to do reverse musical chairs. So in a nutshell, what's that? Well, when the song stops, a person gets out. What we do is the person will come up to us. So let's just say it's a bar mitzvah. We'll have some questions about the bar mitzvah boy. So the person that just got out, we ask them a question. Mm-hmm. If they get it wrong, we give them a prize, they're gone. If they get it right, they're back in. But not only are they back in, they get to kick someone out. So it's a great way of getting all the cheaters out, all the kickers, the hair pullers, the shovers. They all get thrown out pretty much early on. But when you get down to the last two people, let's say it's you and I, Jim, and the song stops and I get the chair, it doesn't mean I'm the winner, because if you get the question right, you're the winner. And then what we do is we give both the last two people a prize anyway, so they both made it to the end. But there's musical chairs with a twist that most people have never seen before, and they love doing it because you never know what's going to happen.
Would you say then that your ideal client is somebody that would like to have games throughout, or do you find that because they're not educated about what it can become for their event, that you may take someone who is oppositional about the idea of it, but then once you give some examples, they're like, oh, that's pretty cool.
I see that a lot where, because there's a fine line between being cheesy and pushing too far.
Right.
And our approach, it's all about being elegant and classy. Mm-hmm. So even if we're told no holds barred, go to town, we will always try and keep it classy and fresh and elegant. That's part of the problem. As soon as you say, oh yeah, we're going to get you up and, we're going to do follow along dances, people think right away cheesy. But then when you explain it to them and you talk about the results and how it's going to attract people on the floor, and let's face it, we're still playing the boot scoot and boogie, and they're doing the electric slide. We're still playing the Macarena. So why not take some of the hottest songs? We have a dance choreographer, and we create 16-step dance moves to these songs so we can actually show the guests on the fly. And now they're learning some new dances. They're not doing the same old. It's fresh and exciting and different. So, but back to the original question, yeah, we really are sensitive to making sure that people do not walk away with that cheesy in their head. We want, it's elegant, classy, and then the way we pull it off, it can't be beat. It's really, really amazing.
So going back to the example you were giving, having the bride side and the groom side, and so I'm guessing based on what you said, 4 songs, would that be like about 12 minutes of this actual activity that you do?
Somewhere between 12 to 20, because there is some ad-libbing in between.
Okay.
If we're actually going to teach a dance within that 4-song or 5-song contest, it does create roughly about 15 to 20 minutes. But what happens is that in that time frame, everyone's on the same playing field. Mm-hmm. So when you normally dance, there's great dancers and there's people who have no rhythm at all. Most times I'm in that no rhythm. That's why I teach dances, because it's just easier.
Yeah.
But it works out really well because everyone can feel comfortable because they're with people they know, whether it's girls being comfortable with girls or guys being comfortable with guys, and or family if it's a wedding, even if it's a bar mitzvah, we'll do it as well. So everyone gets involved, everyone gets engaged, and they're always trying to win for somebody. And the competitive edge in any activity is always a good thing. Not to the point where it gets out of control, but people always want people to win and have that glory. And we really emphasize that within the contest. Then that's why every song we always say who's in the lead, and it changes. Generally what happens the last song, it's a tie, and then there will be a winner at the end of that.
Awesome. And I know Scott Favor is big on the whole games throughout the course of an event. And the way he put it, I think I remember him mentioning that from one game that you do is a transition into the next. And you're constantly transitioning throughout the course of the evening. So how many would you incorporate into a particular event? And I'm sure it'll vary depending on how many hours it is. But if you're coming up with these ideas and presenting them in front of an audience, how many typically do you do?
I think it really comes down to reading the crowd.
Yeah.
So for example, and even talking about Jordan's example just now, we're always watching, adapting, and modifying on the fly. And this is important. If the contest looks like, people are going along with it, but it's really not creating the results, we have the ability to wrap it up and move on. Because let's face it, in the world of bar mitzvahs and even with adults, the attention span is very limited. You have a very limited margin to pull something off. So the last thing you want to do is be doing a contest for 20 minutes and 3 people are interested out of the group. And again, the way we do it, and Jordan just mentioned, we create the excitement. So it doesn't have a chance to get boring or have to move on, but you always have to be watching that. Related to game after game after game, again, it really depends on the type of party. I've met with clients where we decided we were going to do 6 or 7 games at 15-minute intervals. We got to the party started, the dance floor got going. The client came up to me and said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Don't stop the music. Let's keep it going." We didn't do one game, and all the prizes that we had, we gave out for dancing. We did dancing contests.
Oh, great.
So even though you have, a case full of interactive games and contests and things, you may not always do them. You may not always do all of them, because it really comes down to the response you're getting from the crowd. Even with all kids parties, like where it's just, you've got 80 kids running around at a bar mitzvah party, kids this year with kids, they don't want to play musical chairs, right? They want to hear great music. They're always on their cell phones texting. Yeah. So we have some really cool text programs where the kids can use their cell phones and they can text, and it goes on the video screens. I mean, it's monitored, so there's nothing inappropriate, but you have to modify it and do it for each individual. I've actually seen DJs walk into a room with a list of this game, and they're so focused on that list in the games, and no one is even participating or paying attention, but they're going through the motions because that's what they were supposed to do. And we want to work with a lot of DJs and teach them the little tricks of, okay, this isn't working. What if I try it like this? Okay, this is working great. Let's try it like that. So, again, the games, to have the list of games, sorry, my throat's getting a little raw. To have a list of games is great, but knowing how to use them, when to use them, why you're using them, whether it's a transition from dinner to the dancing, or whether it's just, there's usually 2 lulls in an evening at a wedding: during the dinner and when the cakes and pastries come out at 10:30, 11 o'clock, at least here in Canada. So those, I'm sure in the States too. So those 2 lulls is where you can plan to do something like Dancing with the Stars, or Minute to Win It, or reverse musical chairs, depending on, of course, the environment you're in. But for the most part, while the dancing is happening, the last thing you want to do is stop the music and line people up. You want to keep that energy and flow going. And there's, again, some really neat ways of pulling that off and ensuring that you'll get the results.
So that's interesting. So you adapt to the environment. It's so, as you mentioned, similar to reading a crowd for music. It's the same thing with a number of activities you involve your guests with throughout the course of the day as well.
I've seen a lot of Scott's games and contests, and I've actually seen Scott in action. I've watched videos, and he's really amazing at what he does. But I've also seen on a lot of Facebook posts, you know, a DJ will post, I have an event coming up, I need to do a contest. And usually the first thing you see is go to scottfaver.com. And, you know, and again, I think that's great to have the information available. But I think it's more important to know you can't just pull a game from the internet and go to your event and do it without thinking it through, knowing how to execute it probably 3 or 4 or 5 different ways, because again, if you're going to adapt to the environment, you have to be able to change things on the fly in case it's not working.
You have to adapt or die. Like the example you gave about students who are on their cell phones, and you involve them in a way that's creative, that allows them to do something they really already enjoy doing, and catering to that. So it becomes really fun for them as well.
Absolutely. One of my mentors growing up was Tony Robbins. And I've always been into music. Even as a young guy, I played piano, I sang, I played drums, and I was always musically inclined. But for me, right from the very start, I knew it was all about the personality. And you can learn the different genres of music, which I knew, but I believed it was all about personality. And then I became a huge fan of Zig Ziglar, who, if you haven't heard him or listened to him, it's just so inspirational. And then there was kind of a little bit of a lull and a gap before we found Mobile Beat and all of the entertainers and the DJs that were doing very similar things that we were doing. To be really honest with you, I thought I was probably the only one that did parties the way I did them, because
Randy
I didn't see any other.
says that a lot. He says, I came up with this great idea, but it wasn't mine, you know?
Well, what was really neat, and again, I mentioned Peter Mary is also one of my mentors. He's very inspirational, but what was really neat about Peter was when I met him, I hadn't seen him perform, but I'm really good at, like, if I meet you and get a sense of your personality, I can tell you almost to the T what kind of DJ you are and what you would do. It's pretty amazing to see that. But what was really cool is when I met Peter Mary, because he was my first exposure to the whole new world of workshops and improving your skills. What was really neat was the things I saw Peter doing. It was like, hey, I do that. And then I just thought that was really cool. And then, you know, we became friends and developed from there. So I would say first and foremost, my inspiration came from Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar. And in the world of DJs, I would say Peter Mary is up there. And my top mentor, of course, is the guy in the screen below me, Mr.
Oh, okay.
Likewise, definitely. Most recently, it's definitely been Barry. It's great to meet someone, and as the discussions go on, you realize it's really a carbon copy of who you are. You're like, I remember one discussion I had with him. We were talking about a game and how we do it differently. And every word I said is he finished the next word, because that's what he does. And it was just unbelievable to be like, it's amazing to find someone who has that same train of thought. And that's where my sort of mentorship came from with respect to all of the different companies and people that I worked with. I used to be in radio. I basically would always learn the good from everybody and take that. So when I started my own company, you know, almost 18 years ago, it was all about learning what works and also knowing what doesn't work and making sure that we avoid that. So it's just the people the interaction that I've had the opportunity to go and learn from and work with and make that sort of the mold for what we built here in Vancouver and across Canada. And then finally, you know, 5 years ago when I met Barry, it all came together. And that's why, you know, we're great business partners, and we do everything together because we think the same.
So it's mutually beneficial, obviously, from the sounds of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the best way for DJs and MCs to find out about some workshops you have coming up and getting in contact with both Barry and Jordan? Tell me how you could do that.
We have a workshop. It's kind of a mini workshop we are doing on Monday, March 13th in Las Vegas. We deliberately timed it out. It's going to be between 5:30 and 7:30. So we wrap up Mobile Beat, whatever's happening in the day, and then we finish our workshop with enough time to grab a bite to eat and head over to the DJ takeover. So the workshop is on the Monday, March 13th. Information about it is on the Sparkle Factor website. It's thesparklefactor.ca. And we have a special on right now. We do have, I think we have a couple of seats left too. We'd love to get as many people out as we can. We'll squeeze as many in as we can for it. It's going to be a small workshop, but a little get together.
Our mandate is just to help other DJs and entertainers like us look at things a little bit differently and adapt their shows. So the one thing, if I can also mention it, that we talked about earlier is that when you do a big corporate party or a wedding, and you're going to see those people again eventually if you get a repeat booking from both of those, we also show you ways to adapt to a new game with the same result. Mm-hmm. Because you never want to be the DJ that does the exact same show every single time.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden, people are going to catch on and you're not going to get the same result.
Yep.
With our whole repertoire of ideas, but at the end of the day, the same result is pack your dance floor to start the party, and then it's in your hands and you'll just kill the show. So in a good way, of course. So
one of the objectives too is, you know, at the end of the day, we want guests leaving going, wow, that was amazing. Can't wait to see what they're going to do next year. That, of course, is in the world of corporate events.
Jordan, Barry, thanks so much again for coming on the show. I'm sure there's plenty of DJs and MCs that will get a great value out of what you're offering at your workshop. And now they have a way of getting in contact with you too if they don't know about you already. And we'll see you next time on episode 11.